It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
What's happening, everybody? Yes, we've made it to almost to the weekend. It's like Friday Eve. I like to call it Friday, or Thursday, I should say. Friday Eve. It is the Thursday edition of the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show, Monday through Friday, right around 6:30, right here live on my YouTube channel. My guest today is a returning guest, Dr. Damon Arnold. He was on with me a couple months ago, and listen, he did a great job separating fact from fiction and lies from truth and just all the nonsense that's been on social media. And all the conspiracy theories and all the wild speculation in the barbershops and the hair salons. So look, we're going to stop all that, okay? Because this is serious. This virus is serious. Over 450,000 Americans have died, okay? That's 450,000 families. So we got to take this serious, all right? And Dr. Damon Arnold is going to tell you why you need to get this vaccine, okay? Because you got your polio vaccine. If you're old enough when you was a kid, you got the measles, you got the German measles, you got the mumps vaccine, you got the rubella. I don't even know what the hell rubella is. You got chickenpox vaccine, I believe. If you want to go to Africa, you got to get a yellow fever vaccine. So listen, you go into college, you got to get a meningitis vaccine. So we flu shots every year. So, okay, we're going to stop with this. Okay, because black folks are dying at 3 times the rate of white Americans. So we, if nobody else we need to be the first ones in line to get this vaccine. And in a lot of cases, it's hard for a lot of black neighborhoods to get that vaccine. Dr. Arnold's going to talk about all that. But February, I'm going to start off. February is Black History Month. Now, for me, Black History is every day. I don't need a month. Ironically, there's somehow the shortest month of the year, with only 28 days, 29 days on a good year, leap year. That's the one month that whoever decided we're going to recognize Black history. But Black history is every day. But since it technically, officially, February is Black History Month, and since I'm going to be talking to Dr. Arnold, and we're going to be talking about COVID-19, I want to share a story. I got a Black history moment that I want to share with everybody. I want to tell you a quick story. Dr. Arnold, he'll probably elaborate and do a much better job than I'm doing now, but I just want to share a quick story about a woman named Henrietta Lacks. Heard of her? No? Might have seen, there have been some movies about her life. So Henrietta Lacks was a young woman. She was 31 when she died in 1951. She died of cervical cancer. And her cells, the cancer cells from her body, have been used for research and to develop vaccines and to do all type of research, all type of medical research. Her cells, which are called HeLa cells, which is short for Henrietta Lacks, the first 2 letters of her first and last name, Henrietta Lacks, HeLa, the HeLa cell line. It's been used for medical research that led to the polio vaccine. So if it wasn't for this sister who died of cervical cancer, it wouldn't be a polio vaccine. Dr. Jonas Salk, who developed the polio vaccine, he used Henrietta Lacks' cancer cells. Those cells have been used to do research on cancer, on AIDS research, the effects of radiation, the effects of toxic substances, to test sensitivity to tape, to glue, to cosmetics, something called gene mapping, gene therapy. Dr. Arnold can explain it better than I can. So this Black History moment, I just want to take some time. Oh, by the way, the descendants of Henrietta Lacks, they're still living. Now, I got to point this out. So her cells have been sold for medical research. Corporations, they have been able to take ownership of her cancer cells, of her cells, to where the family, for years, the family didn't even know this was going on. They didn't even know that their descendant, their ancestor, her children, her grandchildren, her siblings did not know that Henrietta Lacks's cells were being used for medical research. The family didn't get any money. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge, and for those who didn't know, just a little educational moment. Just go ahead and put something in your head. Just so when you hear about a lot of this medical research, cancer, AIDS, think about there was a black woman that made a lot of it possible. If you get a polio vaccine, and now virtually polio is extinct. That's thanks to the cancer cells of one Henrietta Lacks. All right, time for me to bring my guest on. Once again, he's coming back for a second time, and I'm so honored to have this brother back on. He is the former director of public health for the state of Illinois. He was the medical director for Chicago State University. He also served as a lieutenant in the Army National Guard. Was a Black Hawk. It was a Black Hawk helicopter. Say that 2 times. He was a Black Hawk helicopter flight surgeon. He is currently a professor in the University of Illinois College of Medicine and the School of Public Health. Dr. Arnold's got so many, I can't even keep it. I don't know when the brother can sleep with all these titles and all these jobs that he has. But once again, I want to bring him back to the show and thank him once again, Dr. Damon Arnold. Dr. Arnold, hello, my friend. How are you?
Fine. And thank you for having me on the show. I am really, it's an honor to be on your show. I'm glad what you're doing for the community. It's essential that people find the truth out about this vaccine and why we should be lining up to take it. And when I retired from the military, I was a colonel. And when I went overseas, we used to get 6 shots at a time.
Wow.
So they do 3 in one arm, 3 in the other arm. They say, and they give you a little bit of a medical card, and it says, if you use this card, if you lose it, we're going to have to give you those same shots again. Everyone was holding on that card. It was their life. So they did not want to go through that again.
Wow. So what were the vaccines? They were vaccines. This is in the military. I heard that. So 6 shots. So 6 different vaccines. What were they?
So we had things for the yellow fever. We had the regular flu shot. We had things, for the diphtheria tetanus shot. Okay. We also had, anthrax. All those things, the biological weapons that were overseas, we got, inoculated against those to make sure that we were protected when we were going to different regions. So I had traveled to like about 23 different countries and 2 tours in Iraq. But with that, you run across some critters out there, that you don't want.
That's true.
Be taken home with you.
I know. So let's jump right into the conversation since we're talking about vaccines. Okay. So the good news is now more vaccines are becoming available. More vaccines are in the pipeline. I tell you what, where do you want to start? Because I know you've been hearing even more than I have in terms of people still are hesitant and like, you know what? I tell you what, I got an idea. Let me start here, because I think this will kind of bring us up to now. One of the biggest questions that I've heard, one of the most common conversations or debates that I've gotten into, and I'm sure you've had these conversations, is that I've had people say to me, gee, look, man, listen, it takes 10 years to develop a vaccine. They did it in less than a year. Something's wrong with that, man. They did it too fast. Could you explain, Dr. Arnold, the reason why we were able to basically speed up the process to develop and come up with a vaccine, a safe and effective vaccine?
Okay, great, Geno. And I'm not sure if you have the bandwidth for like slides, if you want me to show you that, or is that
maybe. I don't think so. Not now. I think we tried it and it wasn't working for some reason. So, but listen, you did a great job. Trust me. The episode that you and I did, it was one of my most viewed episodes. People really hung on every word that you were saying. So. Yeah. Okay, so for the first thing, you were mentioning the issues surrounding, was the vaccine made very quickly? And one of the things we have to keep in mind is that the
vaccine itself, when you say Operation Warp Speed, we should never have used that term. That was, along with the space cadets who want to go into the,
Space Force, yeah.
the Space Force and all that. No, we shouldn't have been using that terminology. Actually, what happens is that when you're making a vaccine, there are so many obstacles as far as bureaucratic entanglements, making sure you take the right steps, you're making sure you're doing the pricing the right way, making sure you get the right approvals before you go to the next phase, as far as the development of it, but the actual science behind making the vaccine. We have been making mRNA vaccines for the last 20 years. Actually, during President Obama's term, they used that for the Ebola. So they were using an mRNA vaccine for Ebola, and they actually used it for MERS as well in the past.
So let me stop you, Dr. Arnold, and the only reason I'm doing this, so for the brothers and sisters in the barbershop who don't know, say, mRNA, what is that? So in layman's term, explain to them, anybody watching, what exactly does that mean when you say mRNA? Is it, did I get it right?
mRNA, yes.
mRNA, okay. What does that mean?
So it's messenger RNA. So the RNA, that stands for ribonucleic acid. You've heard of deoxyribonucleic acid, otherwise known as DNA. So it's actually genetic material, right? And so if you can imagine having a tennis ball in your hand, and then you have these little toothpicks sticking out of the tennis ball, that's what a virus looks like.
Really?
But it's
wow.
so small that you need to have a specialized microscope, electron microscope, to see it. It cannot be seen with your naked eye, right? So it actually is smaller. It's about 1,000 times smaller than the average cough droplet when you cough. When you see those little spray, very, very small. So inside of that tennis ball, you have genetic material. And the genetic material, there are different types of genetic material. There's some genetic material that will reproduce that tennis ball so that it can spread throughout your body. But then there's small portions of it that you can snip out that only make the protein for that toothpick that's sticking outside of the ball. And that's what this is. So that the spike protein, they call it, is what this mRNA is able to make. It can't make anything else. It can't replicate the virus. It can't give you the disease. It is not the virus you're getting when you get a vaccine. You're only getting that small snippet of mRNA that makes the proteins so your body can recognize this virus later if you get exposed to it. So if you have all these tennis balls out there with toothpicks, circulating in the air, if you actually take the vaccine, your body will recognize it, and those tennis balls, you can knock them away. I mean, not like Venus or anyone,
Right.
That good, but your body's able to defend itself by making sure that you have things called proteins called antibodies. And antibody means that it's against that particular virus, that body that is trying to approach you.
And so antibodies are what exactly? Because I know that's part of our immune system, and the antibodies, they recognize specific viruses, and they basically attack and kill the virus. Am I right?
You're absolutely right.
So what are antibodies made of?
Okay, so the antibodies, you have 5 main cell lines in your body, and they're called basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils. And then you have lymphocytes, and we've heard of things like lymphoma. Yeah. That's the lymphocyte line goes out of control. And you have leukemia when the white blood cells go out of control. So the B cells are the ones that make these proteins called antibodies. So many times, if you cough something up, the body actually encases things, and so in your sputum, when you cough up, you can see these proteins actually attaching to things. That's what that actually is. Your body's making proteins and a gelatin that can actually cover, viruses and bacteria and get them out of your system. So this is in the blood. So these are very, very small, almost a little smaller than the virus I was talking about.
Wow.
and they look like a little bit Y-shaped, sort of like little Ys. And if you can imagine a Y going through your blood, and then it comes up into something that it wants to grab onto, and those two Ys that stick out, those two pieces that make the Y, they grab onto that, right? So it's sort of like a crab's claw.
Okay.
How a crab's claw will grab it. That's what the protein is. It will actually grab those viruses and get them out of your system so they don't cause disease. And so that's what really what antibodies are.
So the mRNA vaccines are Pfizer and Moderna, correct?
Right, Pfizer and Moderna, mRNA vaccines.
So now there's talk about, to explain to everybody about Johnson & Johnson, because there's been a lot of talk that, and you probably, I'm sure you know way more than I do, that I think I heard Dr. Fauci saying that he believes that we're pretty close to getting basically the government giving some type of an emergency authorization so that they can mass produce the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Then we've got the AstraZeneca, and then I think there's another one. So now, from what I've read and heard, those are not necessarily the same mRNA. So what do those vaccines consist of?
Okay, so when you're looking at the Moderna and Pfizer, they're in a particular platform that they're being made on, and they are with microparticles, so that they actually are like sort of inside of a, when you see a gumdrop, we have all of those little sugar particles on top of a gumdrop. They actually coat the mRNA just like that, right? So they put those little sugar drops on it, and they actually do use sugar.
Really? Oh, wow.
To use that. So that is actually, and they use other proteins that are around that actually do that, nanoparticles, that sort of makes that round thing that we, take into our body with the vaccine. Now the mRNA is in the center of that. Now in the other one, so that's Pfizer and Moderna. But when you talk about AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, they use more of a traditional method of doing it. And they use adenoviruses. And the adenovirus is something that causes the common cold. Because, so we've seen these adenoviruses for a long period of time. They actually go and take them and they use the adenovirus that affects other species, because we're so used to them, they're worried that you already have immunity to that, and that will sort of interfere with the vaccine. So the other viruses cannot replicate themselves. These are deactivated. They're active adenoviruses that you just take into your body, and they're only a spaceship to take this mRNA in. So they still use the mRNA, but a different vehicle taking it into your body.
So let me let you, I want you to say that again. As they say, say it for the folks in the back so they can hear it. So if you get the Johnson & Johnson or the AstraZeneca, no, they are not injecting you with COVID-19, because I'm sure Dr. Arnold, they're gonna give you the coronavirus. They're just tricking you. They won't experiment on you. So I just want you to set the record straight, so when folks get online or go to the barber shop or the hair salon or nail salon, they can stop spreading these fantasies and falsehoods.
Right. And it's kind of interesting to me because, right now, as I was mentioning, you have the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson coming online. Now, if you look at the two vaccines that we have right now, Moderna and Pfizer, the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine are about 95% effective after your second dose. After the first dose for Pfizer, it's about 52% effective. Now, people have been talking about, well, this Johnson & Johnson's coming on is not as good. Well, the Johnson & Johnson is 76% effective with one dose. So they're starting actually to do some studies to see whether you need a booster dose for the Johnson & Johnson. But if that holds out and the data holds out, I'm looking at Johnson & Johnson as being potentially a very effective vaccine as well. Right now, just one dose gets you about 84% protected against severe disease. So that means you don't go into the ICU. You have 84% protection against that happening. AstraZeneca is probably going to have data that's similar to that. but we're waiting for the emergency use authorization. That's the EUA that's coming out for both of those. Both Moderna and Pfizer got their emergency use authorization back in November. That's why we're getting vaccinated with those two right now. And you brought up another point, is that, for those two vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, as I was mentioning, nanoparticles surround it like a gumdrop.
Mm-hmm.
You have the little virus that's inactivated, the adenovirus that carries the other mRNA. So both of them are carrying mRNA. So they're very, very similar. They are, very similar in the way that they are being made. So to say that you're not getting mRNA with the other vaccines is not really actual. So both of them use that mRNA. But one thing that you mentioned that I think really needs to be cleared up is I saw things online about the Tuskegee experiment, and people were saying there was actually one person online that said people were injected with syphilis, and then they were followed from 1932 to 1972, 40-year period for the Tuskegee experiment, right. And they didn't treat them, and this followed the unnatural folding of the disease. Now, the problem I have with that is that, first of all, they never were injected with syphilis. They were diagnosed as having syphilis and then followed without treatment, without receiving penicillin. So if we want to reenact this Tuskegee experiment, let's not take the vaccine, and watch the unnatural folding of the COVID-19. Get the COVID-19 and watch yourself for 40 years. We don't know how this is going to affect chronic disease down the road.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So really, we had to got to get past those obstacles of people saying things that aren't exactly correct. There was a travesty, and they should never have done it to those men. Actually, the U.S. Public Health Service system was involved with it as well as Tuskegee Institute, but in Alabama. So we have got to come into the modern scientific age. Actually, you were mentioning someone with the vaccines, right? Salk vaccine and, for polio. Mm-hmm. The first one to actually have a vaccine was in 1764. They said that that Jenner was the first one to have a vaccine for smallpox. But guess what? The slaves are the ones who told him about using that. And it went back generations in Africa, where people were actually auto-inoculating themselves and their children with smallpox so that they would not get the disease. So actually, the origin of vaccinations goes back into Africa way before Jenner. And wow. And they actually would take snake heads, right, and burn them in pits, and then auto-inoculate themselves with that so they would not be succumb to the venom if they were bitten by a snake. So we've had the sort of scientific viewpoints in our community for thousands of years. And Egypt was the greatest library. The first ventilator was in Cairo, Egypt in 1000 AD. Wow. And we're about using ventilators now, right, for supporting people's lives. So we are always part of this scientific movement. So we have got to look at STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and even the arts to make sure that we are part of that.
Now, listen, that's a Black History moment for your ass right there. I'm sorry. I said what I meant what I said. I said what I meant. This is YouTube, so I can keep it 1,000, but this is so important. Do you understand what Dr. Arnold just told you? The whole concept of human vaccination didn't originate here in America. The slaves, Africans brought that technology. And how did they make a vaccine, doctor? If you could just explain it in a real simple way, how were they able to make a vaccine? How did they even know? I mean, the knowledge to even think to do something. And where did they get the vaccine from? And how did they make it? You said in some vaccines, I don't know if that was smallpox or not, it had something to do with the snake. Please explain that again.
Okay, so in order for you to become immune to something, you have to be exposed to it. And what you don't want to do is be exposed to it in a natural way, to inspire the to inhale the, smallpox, and you don't want to and get measles and all those things. So,
aren't they like little spores, little round, something called spores?
Yeah, they're like bacterial cells and
Okay.
viruses. So these things we pick up from the environment. So these viruses that we pick up, if we do it in a small amount, and and they were doing it in very, very small amounts, but that's still a little bit dangerous because you still get the disease if it overruns your body. But it was the idea that a small amount was able to induce this immunity in you if they gave you a little bit of a prick with that. So the smallpox is actually multiple pricks with a needle, right? It's not like the other vaccines we get. And we don't use smallpox now because we've eradicated smallpox, to this point. So those kinds of things, the polio, we have the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, we have the, tetanus, diphtheria. So we get shots all the time. And flu, the flu shot, those things are trying to protect your life. And even the flu shot, 46,000 people or more die in this country every year from the flu, up to 64,000. So when we start looking at the death toll from this virus, even getting your regular flu shot is important for you to get that. And that's the old technology. We know how that works. This technology is based on the same kinds of principles. And when they said it was rushed, we had advances in technology, in science. We had manufacturing of vaccines, and telecommunications has saved considerable time in producing the vaccine. So we have been on this course for quite some time. Developing the kind of technology. Our cell phones move as faster than the speed of light, right? And we can't wait until the next generation comes out. But so these things have been around, and so that whole myth about this was produced at lightning speed, absolutely not. They had more scientific scrutiny on the development of this vaccine than any other vaccine in the history of this world.
Wow. So the bottom line, you in the barbershop, you in the hair salon, Dr. Arnold said the technology for this COVID-19 vaccine has existed for 20 years. The technology was used for AIDS, for trying to develop a vaccine for AIDS, even if they don't have one. Used in the development of a vaccine for SARS and MERS, which is kind of similar. SARS was Southeastern Asia respiratory syndrome, and MERS was Middle East.
Right.
And all these are like respiratory diseases where if you get a real bad case, you get a severe case of pneumonia, like we've been seeing in COVID-19. And so that the technology has been in development for 20 years so they can control SARS and MERS. Am I right? Did I do it?
Oh,
decent
you did
job?
it.
Okay.
Excellent job.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So we can throw that one away. Get rid of that myth.
Right.
One thing I did want to ask you about now is I hear there's a vaccine. Oxford University is doing a study. Is that the AstraZeneca or is it a different one? That's supposedly
AstraZeneca. Yes.
Okay. Supposedly, did I hear some of the research that seems like it might be even more effective than Moderna, Pfizer, or maybe Johnson & Johnson, because now we have the variants, and that's where I want to segue the conversation, because now there's a big concern. I'm here in the Carolinas. They found the variant for the South African variant of COVID-19. They found a variant or a person with that South African variant in Maryland, in Minnesota. They found a person with the Brazilian variant, and there's been talk about Los Angeles has its own variant, and they talk about Chicago could have one. Yeah. So explain when people hear there's like a variant and mutation, and how will these vaccines work with these new strains? I guess to try to explain it in a simple way. Is it a new strain, or is that not accurate? It's still COVID, but it's like, I guess, is it like, you can get a cold, sometimes you get a chest cold or a head cold. Is that a fair analogy?
Okay, yeah. So what the variants are, the way I can explain it is that if I were in the lake, right, and I was in a rowboat, and the rowboat gets hit by waves, one side, so I go a little bit to the left, I go a little bit to the right, but I don't really change that much,
Okay.
right? But if they took my rowboat and threw it into an ocean and turned it into an ocean liner, that's big. That's a big thing. So when I'm in a rowboat, that's a little bit of a drift. We call it a drift in the variant, which is very small or minor. And then if that rowboat gets thrown into the ocean and becomes an ocean liner, that's called a shift, a major change in what the virus is composed of. And so it's similar to, I'll give you a Tiger Woods analogy. So Tiger Woods plays golf, right?
Right.
If he's off a little bit, he's not going to be making a major shift. This guy is so fine tuned
Right.
that he's going to be trying to just make a little bit of an adjustment, one piece of grade of glass out, grass out the way. He's going to be there. He's
Right.
going to be sinking it, right? So this virus is very good at what it does. So it doesn't want to make a major shift. So that spike protein is really highly developed. So it does not want to change that much. It can, because it knows how to attack the cells or attach to them. So most of the things that we've been seeing right now, the South African variant, the UK variant, there's one that's in Australia as well, southern, California, as you were saying.
Brazil.
The Brazilian variant. What they're finding with those is that they spread more readily. So they're more adept at spreading, but not necessarily giving you more severe disease. And what they feel is that these vaccines, as of now, can cross over and take care of those variants.
Okay.
That's why it's so important for everyone to get vaccinated. Once we get herd immunity, which is 80% of people in the population being immunized, the ability for the virus to spread from person to person gets minimized. Okay. And so, but it can still happen. So that's why everyone should get vaccinated. We really want to see 100% vaccination rate, right? But the thing is that if we do that, we can stop this virus from going into those variants. As long as the more time we give it to circulate and the more time it goes from person to person, the more variants we'll see. If we do end up seeing a shift, that means we have to make a whole different vaccine. And that means more trouble for us. So that's why we have to put this fire out now.
I love that. It's funny that you said fire, Dr. Arnold, because I was going to try to use that analogy. So it's like if you have a fire, you learn this in high school biology. If you put a lid over a fire and the fire can't get oxygen, it can't spread. It'll die. So
yes,
that's the same principle when it comes to the vaccine. We are
Correct.
basically humans. We are like the oxygen for the fire. And that flame is looking for more oxygen. It's looking for more humans, a new host to infect. But if we all get vaccinated, then there will be no air for the fire to spread. There will be nowhere for the vaccine to go. And that's, like you said, so that's how you get herd immunity, even though we still don't know whether if the vaccines, we do know that they are preventing people from getting severe cases of COVID-19 or dying, but we don't know if it will keep you from catching the virus at all. Has there been any progress made in terms of the research? And are there certain vaccines that seem to be better than other ones when it comes to keeping you from just, it's one thing to get it and not get sick, but it's another thing if I get the vaccine to where I can't even get the virus at all. Hopefully, do you think we'll ever get to that point?
Oh yeah, well that's one of the things that Moderna was talking about, and I've heard things out there about 25% protection, about not getting the actual virus. So they're still looking at that data to see if it actually can prevent you from actually getting the virus. Even if you do get the virus, having that protection internally, you will defeat it and not, end up with severe disease. That's why they really want you to get vaccinated. But, there is also talk about whether there are vaccines, and it was coming out from the AstraZeneca side. I heard a little bit of a press release on that, but they were speculating whether that will stop the transmission of disease, from person to person. So, those things are still out there. We have to really rely on the science and the data that is telling us. And that's why many times people ask questions, of the medical community. And Dr. Fauci, is on, the advisory committee and immunization practices. And, so he is actually, those questions come out and they are going to be honest with you and tell you we don't know because we don't have the data yet. So the data has to follow everything. Now, if you want to talk about some encouraging data, we have had over 34 million people vaccinated from one of the studies that is read recently, and only 27 people had any kind of serious adverse reaction, where all of them are living currently. They were just treated with some epinephrine. They were taken care of. Some of them had underlying chronic conditions that made that a little bit worse for them, but they survived. So you're talking about, I can't even win the lottery, right?
Right. Now, you know what? I'm glad you said that. Because it's so funny, and I haven't had a chance to like triple check it. I saw online there was I think a newspaper or TV station in Virginia. There was an African American woman in her late 50s. Now she had underlying conditions. I think her family said she had diabetes. She went in and got a Pfizer vaccine. She was fine, and then because I guess they monitor you for 15 minutes.
Right,
So,
yes,
so she was fine for 15 minutes. Then later on, she started having trouble breathing. Now the story said that she came down with something called anaphylaxis.
Yeah.
How am I pronouncing it correctly?
Anaphylaxis. Yes.
Anaphylaxis. So explain to people exactly what that is.
Okay, so anaphylaxis, there are 4 major ways that your body can actually respond to things. So anaphylaxis, there is, remember we were talking about the antibodies.
Right. Now this is an allergic reaction, correct?
Correct, yes.
I'm trying to, so people will understand. So that's a big word for just saying that somebody had a real severe allergic reaction to something. Some people believe it was the vaccine, but now go ahead and give us some more details on anaphylaxis.
Okay, sure. And so it's, when I was in medical school, I made this acronym up for the antibodies, right? So it was a G made, grand made. So it's like Geno, G made. So that's it. So the IgG, IgM, IgA, IgD, and IgE. Now the IgE is the one that is associated with anaphylaxis. And that one is when that antibody actually gets activated and turns your system upside down. It makes you over-respond to a threat that it's perceiving. So even though it's not something that will threaten your body thinks it is, and it will respond to that. Now that can be taken care of with epinephrine.
Okay.
And you see people who have asthma, they sometimes have to go in if they have a real bad episode, and we give them epinephrine, and that sort of quiets their immune system down. So it's just an overreactive immune system that is rare to, a pretty rare event to occur. But once it does, you still have. That's why with the kits they give the EpiPen. We hear about the EpiPens all the time, epinephrine pens that people use for allergic reactions. So to that, and then we just have that on hand in case someone has an allergic reaction.
Okay, so according to this news story, this woman died, but I know you look at official numbers, because I got into a debate / really a discussion, not an argument, because I just refused to argue with this coworker, but this coworker was saying, well, the CDC is lying, 5 people have died and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do this with you today. So I said, just watch the show Thursday. I said, this is before I confirmed that you could be my guest. I said, okay. I'm gonna try to get Dr. Arnold back on the show, but if not, go back and look at the earlier episode, and he can explain to you what's really going on. Because you still get some people, well, I heard this and this person, because some people can't. There's been a very small number, correct? But some people have had severe allergic reactions. But like you said, there are ways to treat this.
Right, and then you have to also look at it from the perspective that people who have those allergic reactions, you really have to you really look at the individual case, and you can't automatically say it was due to this. Right. I could say, well, I had a cup of coffee, before I drove on the expressway, and then I got into an accident. And I can say it was the cup of coffee, right?
The caffeine, right? It's the caffeine.
Maybe not. Right. And maybe not. So we have to be very careful when we start looking at, what was the actual cause of the person, having that kind of reaction or dying. And people who have underlying chronic medical conditions, if you go to your healthcare provider and make sure that, you don't have any allergies to any of the components of the vaccine, they'll give you good advice. So make sure that you reach out to them.
So, all right, I'm going to make a statement. I'm not going to put this in the form of a question because you're not a policymaker. So it would be unfair to ask this question, but it's really just a rant of mine. But maybe you can help me navigate this, and it's not you. Maybe we can help. Now we got President Biden, we've got mayors and governors. So a friend of mine, a contributor to the show, called me right before I went on. She said, I don't know who issued the order. I don't know if it was the city of Detroit. I don't know if the governor has something to do with it, but basically it was like mass emails, official emails that went out. So basically, if you live in Detroit, because they wanted to target the black community, and the city of Detroit is primarily black, still predominantly black. So basically, they kind of just waived all these different categories. It's like, look, if you work in the city, if you take care of a sick parent, if you live in the city, basically, there's no age limitation. If you have a very severe health profile in terms of pre-existing conditions, or if you're perfectly healthy, you can come and get the vaccine. So apparently they have enough vaccine in the city to do this. My complaint, Dr. Arnold, is I know you're right there in Chicago. Now, my mother was fortunate. Now, my mother's health, she's over 70. She has COPD. She has other pre-existing conditions. So she was like at the highest risk. But right. I grew up in Inglewood there in Chicago. And I know there are neighborhoods like Inglewood and Lawndale and Austin and just certain parts of the south of Roseland, Allgale Gardens, a lot of different neighborhoods. Pilsen, a lot of the Latino neighborhoods. These people are not getting vaccines. Something happened here. I thought I was going to be eligible to get a vaccine. I went to there was the teaching hospital, the medical university here. They had a portal where you could go and set up an appointment. Bottom line, I wasn't 70, and I wasn't a healthcare worker. I wasn't a first responder. But the thing that alarmed me, it had to be hundreds of people. The only two black people I saw was myself, and it was a woman who was one of the healthcare providers, and she recognized me, and she was like, "Hey, listen, you didn't." I said, "I didn't get a confirmation email." She said, "Well, that's why." But I looked around. Now, this is in a pretty affluent area here in Charleston. So my thing is, we got to do better. What can be done? Am I just on a rant? But what can be, and what are doctors like you? Maybe that's a fair question. And like I say, you don't set policy. I mean, that's up to politicians. But what are doctors like you doing, Dr. Arnold? I know you are highly respected. You travel in some very influential circles. So what are doctors like you doing in terms of reaching out to, policymakers and mayors and governors, reaching out to the Biden administration to make sure that they get these vaccines in these neighborhoods to where they don't have a Walgreens or a CVS, and people don't have they may not have a car, or they're older and they have a hard time getting around. Can what couldn't they get like mobile vaccine trucks like the American Red Cross and go into these neighborhoods and go to these people? So what are doctors like you, other African American doctors, and I'm sure there are doctors that are not African American that see that this has got to change. But I just want to
Yes.
specifically address, what are Black doctors like you? What can you or what are you guys doing in terms of just, I don't know if you just got to call some folks, say, hey, listen, you all got to get y'all blank together here, and we need to get some vaccines over in Inglewood, out in Roseland, or the East Side here in Charleston, or Liberty Hill neighborhood. So what's going on?
Okay, so when I was, I was a director for the Illinois Department of Public Health previously. So I'm working now with HCSC, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois Healthcare Services Corporation. And so one of the things that they are doing is they're actually reaching out as well. But I volunteered and went back to the Illinois Department of Public Health, and I've been working very closely with the director and the people there. I ran the H1N1 response.
Oh, wow.
We had that 10 years ago, approximately. Yeah. And so one of the things that I've been working is with the Office of Minority Health Affairs with Veronica Holloway that runs that section. So I'm co-chairing a committee with her. So we've been going, we've had over, I want to say close to 150 Zoom meetings since March with community members, LGBTQ community, our African American community, our Latino community, Asian community, people. We're even getting ready to do one for the Amish community, the disabilities community, migrant worker community, the refugee community, the prison population. So we've been reaching out to find out what is it that is causing that resistance to becoming vaccinated. Back in March, we were just talking about testing, but we have shifted to doing that. In August, one of the things that I was really pushing for was an early flu vaccination campaign. Normally it's done in November, but we actually paired up with 6 different African-American mega churches in Chicago and gave free flu vaccinations with Walgreens, and then with the actual ministers and the reverends. Actually, they allowed us to use their parking lot, and then we brought federally qualified healthcare centers in to do the testing and administer, and Walgreens administered vaccine. So we also had Wellness on Wheels vans that are mobile units that we've been incorporating into the whole scenario. So we've been identifying communities that have been the hardest hit. We know what the numbers are showing. And those are the focal points we have now. So we have mass vaccination campaigns coming out of the governor's office that are going to, some of the hardest hit communities. And we have got to get this message out that it's not just, you that you are taking care of when you get vaccinated. You're taking care of your entire family.
Yeah.
Should you succumb to this disease unnecessarily, then that is one other breadwinner that the family loses. Everything you've been working for your entire life, your pension, all of that could disappear.
Wow,
before, early on. And why do that? You've been paying into Social Security. It's already a problem for African American men, especially, to collect Social Security because our death rate puts us around the time of Social Security distribution. So think about what you're losing by not protecting yourself. And we don't know what this virus is going to do in people should they get COVID-19 and how that's going to unfold. We already, there was one person, I was on a call and we were doing a presentation at the Moderna trial for the FDA. And one of the things that we mentioned was that with this, you have to look at, how is this thing really unfolding in the African American communities, and that we need to make sure that we prevent, disease from springing up that is out of control. And we have been having the highest death rate.
Yes.
4 times more likely to be hospitalized if you're African American and on Medicare than the white population. 2 times if you're Latino, and 1.5 times if you are Asian. This comes out of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Wow.
The data. If you are on that renal dialysis, if you have someone in your family, 11 times more likely to be hospitalized, and most likely, and very likely to be placed on a ventilator. A pretty dismal future.
Wow.
So these are the things that we have got to pay attention to. And, I'm one of those people, the diet thing. Vitamin D3 is actually helpful. It is a hormone, actually, that quiets down your immune system. It sort of puts the brakes on it. And as we were mentioning before, COVID makes your body overreact. So this actually is one of those things they feel that may be helping to quiet things down a bit.
Well, let me ask you something, though. So, because my non-scientific, because I'm not a doctor, I didn't try to play one on TV, but so and I hear vitamin D along with zinc, vitamin C, turmeric, ginger are good. But if vitamin D suppresses the immune system somewhat, won't that make you more susceptible to get something else?
No, so it balances it. So it actually quiets down the overreaction.
Okay. That's why you're a doctor.
Yeah. So, and when most of us, most African Americans are deficient in vitamin D. You can get your level checked, when you go on therapy. Usually if they give you vitamin D2, that's the one you're going to become toxic on because it's a different metabolism for that one. And that's when they give you shots and things like that. But the over-the-counter vitamin D3, I think Fauci takes 6,000 international units.
Really?
And a lot of people are taking, 3,000. That's,
and you say it's vitamin D. Everybody heard you say vitamin D2, vitamin D3. So which one exactly?
D3.
Vitamin D3.
3.
That's the one we're looking for when we go to.
Yeah.
So when we go to the supermarket or go to the drugstore, look for. I got it because I've been doing my vitamin C, zinc, and my turmeric because I sprinkle it on my food. Like I season my fish with turmeric and ginger, and I've been doing the gargling with Listerine also. So
and that's one thing is really important to mention, and this comes out of Harvard with Dr. Bernard and his crew and some other. They have multiple studies going on about heart disease reversal, all that stuff. The foods that we're eating actually attack our vascular system in much the same way as COVID-19 is doing right now.
Really? Wow.
So the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19 attaches to these receptors. So those toothpicks actually are picking up receptors on the cell surfaces. And so that virus can actually be pulled into the cell and replicate itself. Now, these food substances cause, we know that it leads to heart attacks, right? And strokes.
Right.
Because it clogs the arteries. So all these fats and all those kinds of things that come from meat. So vegetables, fruits, they've been shown to decrease your inflammatory markers. If you were to go to a full vegan, decreases your inflammatory markers 60% in 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't eat meat. I just got to stay away from potato chips and Mountain Dew and French fries. So that's
French fries. Yeah. So those things that cause that inflammation during this time, it's more important for you to watch your diet.
Wow. Thank you. I need to hear that because I had a Mountain Dew binge and that was a whole nother story. That and potato chips. So I got to. I do pretty good. And then one day I lose it, I got a lecture about it last night from my wife, Damaris. So
and it's not based on science. It's not based on data and science. There's no scientific study showing that, but it just makes sense to some degree. If you can control your diet, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And certain foods, certain foods when you eat, you feel lighter. Certain foods when you eat, you feel more sluggish and they feel heavy and they stay with you. And I was never a meat eater either. I was never a meat eater anyway. That's just, catfish, chicken wings. It's a whole nother story. It's not about me. All right, listen, before I let you go, first thing, all right, this message is for me. It's not from Dr. Arnold. This message is for me to all you policymakers, from President Biden, Vice President Harris, everybody in the Senate, the House of Representatives, all my governors, mayors, alder people, council people, You need to make whatever you got to do to get these vaccines. I think Dr. Arnold laid out a pretty good, I love what I heard in terms of what I guess the state of Illinois, Governor Rauner and Mayor Lightfoot is doing.
Governor Pritzker.
I'm sorry, yeah. Governor Rauner. Oh my God, what Governor?
We've been in a different situation with that.
Yeah. You all might be messed up if a dude was still in there. No, Governor Pritzker. I'm sorry, Governor Pritzker. You're doing a pretty good job. But I got a bone to pick with you all, and it's about teachers. Now, full disclosure, my baby sister is a teacher. But even if she wasn't a teacher, I would still feel the same way because I felt this way about teachers even before she became a teacher. Teachers are the most precious, one of the most precious gifts that we have because they are responsible for our most precious gift, those of us that have children. So teachers need to be made a priority. I don't know how you're going to get the vaccine, where you're going to get the vaccine. As my grandfather said, you do what you want to do when you want to do it bad enough. But these teachers, listen, I understand. I got a daughter in college now. I understand that kids, young people, I've been promoting education on my radio show for 16 years. I get it. But you cannot ask these teachers to put their lives on the line. There have been thousands of teachers that died, that came down with COVID. Some of them while they were teaching. So if we really value teachers the way we say we do, then show it by your behavior. A, you need to pay them a whole lot more money. And B, make sure that every teacher should be vaccinated. It can't be that hard. They didn't sign up for this. They signed up for a lot, but they didn't sign up to put their life on the line because of a global pandemic and a country that couldn't get its act together. Now that's a whole different conversation. That just bothers me. I think so much of teachers, Dr. Arnold. I do, and I just think that if they are a priority, because I hear this all the time. Oh, we love our teachers and teachers this. I don't want to get into the back and forth with the teachers. Stop. I don't want to hear it. I don't care who it is. Teachers union, mayors, governors. Damn it, we know the problem. Get these teachers vaccinated. It's not that hard. Mayors and governors, President Biden got his, Vice President Kamala Harris, all the senators in the House of Representatives. Hell, half of them probably don't deserve to get one. You know what? I'm wrong for saying it, but I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. Some of them probably don't. Some of them don't believe. Some of them believe it's a hoax anyway. So you probably wasted the vaccine, vaccinated somebody that doesn't believe that COVID-19 is real in the first place. That's a different conversation. But we gotta please get the teachers, get all the teachers vaccinated. Yes. That's all. Dr. Arnold. Yeah. I just had to say, I don't know if you want to, if you want to, you don't have to, because I don't want to put you on the spot. This is my show. That's my editorial. Dr. Arnold had nothing to do with that. But if you want to, anything that you want to say or anything that give me a different perspective in terms of the way I need to look at it, I value your knowledge and your perspective because you've been, as they say, in these streets fighting this virus and public health thing for a long time before we knew before we had any concept of COVID-19.
Yeah. And then, and the things that you're saying are really, that's why we're in a very complex environment right now. So many things are happening and, they want to open movie theaters and they want to open this and and I can understand that totally. Kids are getting frustrated and all that. But what we have to do is follow the science. And, there are three things that we have going for us. One is the public health measures, wear a mask, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, soap and water, and physically distance, not socially distance. That's a different thing. Socially distance, you don't want to do social abandonment or, social isolation. That's not a disconnection. That's not what we're here for. The second thing is really effective treatment. We have a lot of things that can be done if you do get COVID-19. You don't want to get it, but if you do, we do have antivirals, monoclonal antibodies. The antibodies I was talking about, we can produce those in the lab. And then also steroids and supportive care. But that's the course you do not want to go down that road if you have to. Yeah. And the third thing is really getting the COVID-19 vaccination. That is the cornerstone. I was, in the military, I was talking about being overseas. I walked through a polio ward in Uganda, and I saw kids who deformities, who were in wheelchairs, that had to have multiple surgeries by orthopedic surgeons, and it just destroyed their lives if they even survived, right? And we take it for granted. We get the polio vaccine when we're kids, and we just take it for granted we don't have it here. And, so we have got to come to grips with not suffering the biggest, the worst consequences of this disease by just doing something as simple as going for a vaccine. I know that people have reservations about it, but, inform yourself, read about it, talk to the, healthcare providers, and try to get an informed decision, because you don't want to have, a bad result where you could have prevented something. And that's my feeling. I'm not eligible for it, but as soon as they
that was my next question.
I'm pressuring them every day. Hey, I want my vaccine. So I'm one of those like you, Geno. It's time to get that.
Absolutely. And I've been working with a brother here named Eric Watson. He is the head of the Charleston County. They have like a public health office or division. And basically, I'm going to be one of the validators, as they say, somebody that the public knows that's well known here in the media. And I said, listen, I don't want to butt anybody. I don't want to go in front of anybody who needs the vaccine worse than I do, because thank the good Lord, knock on wood, I've been very healthy. But I said, I am willing to publicly go on TV. As a matter of fact, I will videotape it, and I'll play it on one of the episodes of my show where you can see me. And if you know me, anybody that knows me, my mother is watching, she will tell you the only thing on this planet that I'm afraid of, not a gun, but needles.
Okay.
Even I went and got my own flu vaccine because my doctor said, gee, this year with COVID-19, I'm gonna need you to get that flu vaccine. And I went to a drugstore at one of the local supermarkets by myself, and I got my flu vaccine, and I was like a little kid in candy store. I was so proud. I called everybody. I called my mother. I called the mayors. I called my daughters. I'm like, you all be proud of me. I got my flu shot. It didn't hurt. I didn't even flinch. I'm like, yeah, I can take it. So as soon as I can, but I wanted to use the platform and the popularity and whatever privilege or celebrity I have to show people, listen, you all know I'm gonna keep it 1,000. And if something was wrong, that's why I brought on Dr. Arnold. I mean, this brother's got the receipts, he's got the credentials. This has been his life's work when it comes to public health and infectious disease. So he knows about as much as Dr. Fauci. Now he's humble. He's a humble brother. He ain't gonna brag on himself. So I'm gonna brag for him. I'm gonna brag on him for him. So, but the bottom line, I was very intentional, and I've had conversations on some of my other social media platforms with Dr. Thaddeus Bell here and Dr. Paula Orr. I've been very intentional, and you and I talked about this when we first had a conversation, Dr. Arnold. I've been very intentional. I want to get African-American doctors. I want to get Black men and women who are experts, who know this stuff, who've dedicated their life's work to knowing what's going on with this. But somebody that looks like you and me, that we can say, okay, man, this brother's smart. Okay, man, he's cool. You know what? Okay, if he say so, I'm gonna go ahead and, I'm gonna stop looking at Facebook and Twitter and TMZ and the crazy internet. I'm gonna listen to Dr. Arnold. So if we can convince one person, Dr. Arnold, man, if we can just convince one person that had reservations about getting the COVID vaccine, it would make my day. I hope we can convince more than that. But if you just convince one by being on my show, I would just be honored and happy. So I want to thank you for once again.
Oh, I would be honored by that myself. And I always wish the best for everyone in our community. That's what I dedicated my life to. And I'm not going to tell people a lot of hype and all this. I've investigated things and really look at the data and see what they're talking about. And this is something that we cannot afford to miss. And I would love to come back on your show at some point and talk about, Loretta Pleasant, who is Henrietta Lacks. That was her born name, and Ernest Everett Just.
Wait, what was her born name again?
Okay, it was Loretta Pleasant.
Oh, I did read that somewhere. You're right. So where did Henrietta Lacks come from? I know she did. Okay, she got married. Isn't that her married surname?
That was her name, right? So she got Lacks from her marriage, and then the Henrietta. I've been trying to pin that down, how that actually came about. Okay. But we had to go undercover a lot of times in the past in the South,
right?
Everywhere else in the country, North too.
Right, that's true. Yes.
So I'm not sure of how that happened, but I'm trying to do some research on that. And then you have Ernest Everett Just, who's the most published biologist ever, and was actually really the person who talked about looking at whole cells. And they stole a lot of his research. He was a classmate with Charles Richard Drew, who did the first blood bank, and a classmate with Thurkill, who was a whole co-holder of a Nobel Peace Prize for unidirectional sonar that saved thousands of ships, that saved us in World War II. Oh. So we have quite a history of people who've done stuff there.
So one of the people who developed the sonar that the submarines used to use, and
was African
I remember seeing Aquaman, and he'd have the it looked like those waves. So a black person co-developed that.
Yes.
Wow.
We have a deep history, and we know Benjamin Banneker laid out the plans for Washington D.C.
Right. True.
Well, we
I'll make a deal with you. Before the end of February, before the end of Black History Month. I want you to come back on, and we'll just dedicate an episode where you can tell that story. And obviously, if there's any information that needs to be updated about COVID-19, which is I was going to close the show by just telling the audience, listen, I guarantee you, if Dr. Arnold sees any data, if he sees anything that looks sideways, I guarantee you, he will be the first one to call me and say, listen, Geno, I need to go on because something's not right, and we need to get this information out to the public. This is the kind of man he is. So you don't have to trust me, but you can trust his brother right here, because he.
And one other thing on that, Geno, is that they had the GlaxoSmithKline. They had to withdraw because their vaccine wasn't working.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. Right.
Scrutiny on that. They said no, and they said it was the vaccine ready till December of this year.
Yeah.
And so it's like they are watching this stuff like a hawk.
And that's good. That's good. Dr. Damon Arnold, man, thank you, my brother. God bless you. Man, the knowledge and the wisdom and just the education and you explain it to us in a real simple way where, brothers can go back to the barbershop, sisters can go back to the hair salon, and they can, they'll probably mess up a little bit. Well, I was watching Geno, and this brother named Dr. Arnold he said, no, you need to go get that vaccine, and they ain't shooting you up with COVID-19. They got this mRNA, this technology with this.
Yeah. And they're saying it was a handball, not a tennis ball.
Right. Yeah. It was like like an egg roll with like little spike with hair spiked up on it. So listen, Dr. Damon Arnold, man, thank you, brother. God bless you. Love and respect to you and your family. And we'll definitely talk before the end of the month. And obviously, if there are any new developments that you want to share with the public and that you think I need to share with my viewers, I know you'll give me a call. So thank you, brother.
And God bless you and your listening audience. And they are lucky to have you there, champion this cause, because it can save lives. And we got to save our families.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. I received that coming from you. Thank you. Yeah. We'll talk soon. Dr. Damon Arnold, he's a good man, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you. Brothers. You talking about smart? Man, that brother, man, I bet he had to get like all A pluses. His GPA must have been about 6. Because when it comes to this science, he knows it. Listen, thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones YouTube channel. The Geno Jones Daily Variety Show, Monday through Friday. I start around 6:30 p.m., sometimes a few minutes after 6:30, but you're right around 6:30 p.m. Mother, I love you. I know you're watching. I hope you enjoy. And congratulations, my mom got the Pfizer vaccine today, her first shot. So I'm so excited. So listen to Dr. Arnold. Get the vaccine, okay? Get what you got to get. Do that, because the life you save, it could be your life or it could be the life of somebody you love, because who knows, you could be one of those asymptomatic or mild symptomatic carriers and shed it to your mother or your father or a grandparent or maybe a sister or brother that's got a compromised immune system, or that has diabetes or hypertension or emphysema, or just maybe they just got through with cancer treatment. Maybe they had to get some kind of chemo or something like that. You just never, or you could have a child in that situation. So go back and play this episode, share it with everybody. I hope he answered all your questions and got rid of any hesitation you may have in terms of getting this vaccine, because we're dying. We are dying at 3 times the rate of white Americans. We are getting infected. Dr. Arnold said it 4 times. Think about it, 4 times. So for every 1 white person that gets COVID-19, 4 black people get it. Yeah, and I paused for a reason. Just wrap your brain around that. And for every 1 white person, white American, that dies of COVID-19, 3 black Americans are dying from COVID-19. Man, we need to be the first one. We need to say, hey man, give me another. I know they said, give me, shoot me up in both arms. We definitely got to take advantage of this. And thank God that the technology has been there all along. It's just that the pharmaceutical companies, they couldn't figure out a way to make money out of it. But all these governments came in with an infusion of cash and said, listen, we'll underwrite whatever. How much money y'all want? Okay, here's the check. Give me the route number. We'll go ahead and transfer the money in the account. And damn it, get this vaccine ready. So yes, this vaccine, this technology has been around for 20 years. But the reason you hadn't seen it, it hasn't been out in the public, because the pharmaceutical companies couldn't figure out a way to make money off of it. That's a whole nother show. All right. Once again, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Shout out to Markel Bailey, my hairstylist and barber, Kelby Cuttin on Instagram, KELBECUTTIN. My wardrobe consultant in Chicago, Mr. Bruce Gage. Check him out on Instagram, Bruce Gage. His Instagram page, it's fire. As the kids say, the drip, the fashion is just impeccable. All right, and also Flyball the store. If you're a fan of the old Negro Leagues, or if you just like some of their gear, they got some really, really, really fly looking, just good looking gear. Flyballthestore.com. He is one of the official vendors to carry Negro League gear and memorabilia. All right. So tomorrow is going to be the week in review show. My guest is going to be Keela Carson, my political editor. So yeah, it's gonna be hot. And also, if you missed the show from Tuesday, Lettucey was my guest. She's got a brand new song and a brand new video called Same Love. So if you missed it, we're gonna play Lettucey's brand new video and song called Same Love on tomorrow's show. All right, I love you. I really do. Mother, I love you. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you really got a lot. And once again, I can't thank Dr. Damon Arnold up in Chicago enough. And thank him for the work that he's putting in the community. He's been putting in this work for years. And, you know, he's not like, hey, look at me, look at me. He's not that kind of guy. He just puts his head down. He puts in the work. He's saving people's lives. He's trying to educate people, and especially our community. He's committed to our community. So I want to amplify and elevate voices and people and doctors like him. Because trust me, Dr. Fauci ain't the only one that knows some stuff. Dr. Arnold knows a lot of stuff too. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow, Friday, kicking off the weekend right here. Yeah, I know. Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah, I'll give you my prediction and my score also on Friday's show. All right, I'll see you. Till next time. Thank you and God bless.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.